Now, this is how I'd been expecting the return of Ziggy to be, because we have the general hype around Ziggy. Like, I assume that Prime Ziggy was above any of the Heavenly Knights, and obviously, like, if you look at Eden Zero with the kind of the whole tier system set, between the characters, we have up and coming big opponents like the Oceans, but the Oceans are ultimately below one of the Rationes Galactica, and I know that the Galactica and the Interstellar are about a level with each other, so that's obviously like that full tier, those 12, and then and then obviously if there's any characters that are hyped up to be like, oh, they're on level with one of the Erasion Says, either Galactic or Interstellar, but essentially that is a tier, of characters when it comes to like their general power level. Abilities and stuff vary, but I would assume that any member of the Galactica or Interstellar could 1v1 any other member. There's probably one that's like above the other ones, and then obviously there's going to be one that's like the weakest. But regardless, I think that any of them should at least be able to put up a fight against one of the other ones. And then above that, we have the Heavenly Knights, the Dancing Sakura, and they were clearly like legends within history. And I would assume that Ziggy is like Prime Ziggy is one spot above them. Like the only character I would just guess is above Ziggy for sure, like is Mother, but that's only in the idea of the assumption that Mother is at the tip top of the series. I assume she is. I don't know why. I don't know why she wouldn't be. Like maybe Ziggy at the end will be above her, but as of right now, my guess of like where Ziggy would sit, like in its prime, is like the one spot below her, if not on equal ground with one of the Heavenly Knights. But regardless, what I'm going with this is we know that when Ziggy came back, he like didn't believe he had a Shura like win against Elsie. Like even if he ended up defeating her, there'd be like a lot of damage between the two of them. So it's like Ziggy clearly was weaker than when he was in his prime, coming back, and it like made sense. Like he was at like the first point we saw him getting back up, he's in like a broken down body, like he's missing a bunch of parts. He's got holes and like moss and stuff, and then he ended up healing himself to get back to that general kind of like regular status that he was at, seemingly in the flashbacks. But the thing is he's a machine, and on top of that, like when we saw the Dark Stars, is he made it very clear to like bring up the fact about like machines, advancing and evolving, upgrading, and it all tied into like the idea for him and machines. Obviously, like the general mindset I'm guessing he's going for is like king of progress, because machines can ultimately upgrade and evolve obviously way faster than like a human or another species. Unless your power is to somehow evolve and like adapt, then you're having a bad situation against a machine, because a machine can just scan themselves and upgrade. Like think about Wall Ito from Fairy Tail. Like if he was a bigger character, or at least had like more of a spotlight, he obviously could like continuously just keep upgrading himself and upgrading himself and upgrading himself, because he could scan for weakness. He's smart enough to know how to boost his system. This, unfortunately for him, like he entered the fray when there were some people bigger than him, and obviously like he wasn't at the tip top. Like it's a similar thing that you can look at something like like Skynet, and like just the general idea. Because whenever I look at Ziggy, the characters that I would just kind of like give like a TLDR combination, I think of like Darth Vader, like, and Skynet, and kind of like a little Terminator-ish of just that idea. He's this machine space overlord that clearly has like a machine supremacy in mindset, but also how he's just continuously evolving and adapting. But we see that with him here. I really like this upgraded form. There's not a lot like in terms of just like boosting himself up. It looks like he just got like an upgrade. It's not like he's a completely different character. Like he has the general same kind of concept design, but obviously it's all just juiced up a little bit, and I like that. I love what Mishima's doing with the horns. His arms look bigger. He just generally looks like a thicker individual. His like cloak. His cloak is looking a lot cooler too, but I don't think his cloak has really changed. Outside, he doesn't have the skull shoulder pads, but I like those. I'm kind of hoping Mishima brings those back. But my guess is he's My guess is he's probably trading out like a little bit of a cooler design and then swapping out the skull shoulder pads, just because I would assume something like that might be a little bit tedious to draw every time. I don't know. Maybe he just wanted to change the look. Maybe he'll bring him back. Either way, I really like what he's doing with this one. And like the maw on his chest, it's like opened up and that like sphere is further in. I think that's really spooky, and I'm wondering if that's just a design thing, if there's some reasoning behind it. But I really like this this upgraded form for Ziggy, because it was one of those things that like I just assumed that we were going to get for him, is he was going to continuously upgrade his build and his equipment from, you know, just the general idea setup of machines, but also with the Dark Stars. Like clearly he is wanting to go on that mindset of like progression, evolution of machines, and just like, you know, evolving, like upgrading, becoming a more powerful just being in general. I think this is really cool, and I'm guessing this isn't going to be his final form. We're probably going to get another upgrade or two, and I like the old design. Like I said, it's cool. Like he had like a level of sinister like design to him, but I think it was because like the nicer look to the skull, how you can kind of have like a, like it was very easy for Mishima to have the old design skull face and make him look kind of friendly but still kind of spooky. This one obviously is way more villain looking, like a very more villainous. It definitely looks a lot more wicked. I think one of the bigger things is just the general face, the way that it's set. It looks more like he's glaring, but also like his sharper mouth, like it just looks more. He looks more malefic, and I think that looks just generally is really cool. But I like this chapter. I thought this was a really solid chapter, and this is one of those times where you can tell Mishima knew how to set up something just generally hype at the end, just because like the rest of it was cool, but it would have been a bit of a boring chapter if it didn't have the stuff at the end. Like I was really hoping for Shura to make his move, but at the same time, I don't know what Shura's gonna do now. Like, Shura, I already assumed that he was gonna lose. I already just assumed that Shura was gonna end up taking an L when going up against Ziggy. Like, when it came to, like, the other members of, like, their crews, I assumed that, like, the Dark Stars and the members of the Oceans that Shura's bringing along, I figured that would be more of, like, a equal footing fight. We don't know, obviously, how powerful the Dark Stars are in total, but we know that the Oceans are pretty powerful. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it generally just kind of plays out in their matches. But I don't think that Ziggy is gonna like have any real problems with Shura, because like not only is Ziggy bigger in the food chain, they have the same type of ability. I'm wondering if Shura's will be like a variation, like maybe Shura evolved his down his own path, like tweaked it in ways that were more to his style and to his liking, so maybe it won't be the same exact Satan gravity. Maybe it'll be something completely like in a similar concept. Like I don't know what you would have to call, maybe Lucifer gravity. Maybe just pick a different royal demon, or maybe just pick a demon a demon lord from a different mythology, and kind of have that name. Like instead of Satan, you have Hades or something, or something, Helia. I'm trying to think of more, just off the top of my head, like something like Anubis or something. I don't know, some other like cool afterlife, hellish like being. But either way, like I don't see him holding the chance. Like before this, I thought like, okay, he's gonna be able to get him to like somewhat trying, and it would be like just a reality check for Shura. But I think Shura is gonna get his ass kicked. Like, when Shura and Ziggy fight, let's let me know, when Shura and Ziggy fight, if Shura puts up even a fair fight against him, if Shura's at least able to push Ziggy a little bit and, like, hold his own, I'll be pretty happy on that. Like, I'll be pretty stoked on just Shura not getting the hell beat out of him. Because right now, that's where I kind of just see a spot. Is granted, we don't know how strong Shura is. I don't really know if I would count him no diffing that member of the Oceans, because the guy wasn't suspecting it at all. So I don't really see that. But even if he's stronger than one of the Oceans, and say like when I mentioned like if there are characters that are stated to be on par with one of the Galactica, like say Shura ends up being on par with one of the Galactica. Obviously, like he's a big deal, and just like this context of the story, he's got Satan gravity, assuming it's Satan gravity, and it hasn't, like I said, become its own thing. But even if he's on level with one of them, like this upgraded Ziggy has to be stronger, but like a good amount. Like if we had a statement where it just said like even Prime Drac and Joe no nerf wouldn't be able to beat Ziggy or something like that, or Elixir Justice, it wouldn't surprise me, because we know he has a level of just lore and presence within the cosmos's existence and history that gives him a level of just danger, because Ziggy's not like a character that's up and coming. When you compare it to other series, like again, always easy to compare because you look at some like Hiromishima's other series. When you compare it to Rave Master, Lucia had hype, but he didn't have like the merit and the accomplishments that when he was rising up that you would know what he's capable of. He had just kind of like the general hype, knowing his placement in the story, his dad was and stuff. So it was like, he's strong, he should be strong, but who knows to what degree. So Mishima was able to not make him too crazy at certain times, where like him getting pushed back was, fair and acceptable. Whereas like if you said like Zareth was broken and crazy out there, but Zareth had his own reasons in the story and limitations that like sometimes he wouldn't be able to fight like at full capacity. But the difference between Zareth and Ziggy, really, when it comes down to it, is Zareth was like a character who was doing stuff for the most part hundreds of years in the past. Like he wasn't as active recently, whereas like Ziggy was out doing stuff less than 2 decades ago, less than 20 years ago. Like it in my lifetime, I'd be able to at least like I'm not like, oh, I'm only 26, but it'd be like if I was at 6 years old, I probably would have heard about this guy at the time, or even within the couple of years of like the cooldown, because Ziggy is a character that should still be fresh in history and people's knowledge. And like think about the Federation. And again, I compare it to like Zareth, but like with Zareth and Ferrital, like with the Magic Council, this is an ancient being. You have no idea like exactly the extent of what they could be fully capable of. You don't really know what reasons they're haven't been operating. There's a lot of questions and mysteries that kind of go into the level of threat and just general presence that they're doing. But like think about Ziggy. Think about like Jaguar. Jaguar is an old man. I'm just guessing he's in his 60s. So he was already like a pretty well-aged man by the time that Ziggy was up and doing stuff. And like we get some further information. Obviously, like Ziggy would have had to be like 100 plus years back when he met Xenolanth, because there is some questioning on Ziggy's presence in a couple occasions and in the timeline in this chapter. But like the stuff going on with the rest of the characters was cool, but like the Ziggy stuff is to me the most interesting parts of the story right now, just because it's big events up and coming, just outright. Like everything around Ziggy right now is a big thing. But like I said, think of a Jaguar. Think of Jaguar 20-something years earlier. You have this extremely powerful, sentient robot, like overlord, traveling space. We don't know exactly the extent of like was he like a villain at one point? Because that's what I think. I think Ziggy at one point was like a big villain, and that's one of the reasons he erased like the Shining Star's memories, is they probably had some villain like acts at some point in time, and then like he erased their memories like before going on his journey. Because I feel like with the Demon King title and like obviously like him being like a bit infamous, he had to be villain like at some point, and then somewhere along the story through whatever his the secrets of just what's going on with Ziggy became like like a good guy, and then obviously like right now he's either reverted or corrupted and gone crazy. But 100 years, like clearly like there's some questions in there of what he was doing, since the point. Like think of like we don't know how old he is prior to meeting Xenolanth. We know at least 100 years. Somewhere within that span of time, he started, going out and doing space pirate stuff. And then somewhere along those lines, he got like the 40 Shining Stars. He built up his reputation. And then, that led into like what they said, 15 years or so with Ziggy, or with Shiki. And that led into like some of the questions of like what happened to him and whatnot. And obviously some of the some of the holes in the story that we don't have the filling to, so we're just kind of left in the dark. But it's so interesting of just generally how Ziggy is, because like I said, think about Jaguar. Dude's in his 40s. There's a crazy, powerful machine, controls gravity, making a ruckus in the universe. 15 years passes, and some change of just, like, events going down, and then he comes back. Like, and not just he comes back, he immediately comes back, and it's not like, oh, he's looming around the cosmos, who knows what he's up to. He comes back and immediately starts going to work. He immediately wipes out all of these dragons at Dragon Falls. He immediately goes and infects a planet of machines to start rebelling and start killing people. Like, he immediately goes back into chaos and immediately goes back into his, whatever his campaign is. And on this chapter, like, he even says, like, he's going to take the Aoi Cosmos from Nero. My guess at what's coming up, I'm just guessing, is that he's going to, like, I'll go a little bit more into it probably in, like, a prediction. Actually, I'll save it. I want to start doing, like, Eden Zero prediction videos. Actually, I'll say this one, and then, like, maybe go into a little bit more in the video. I think that he is going to end up beating and killing Nero, and then we're going to have Shura and his crew kind of, like, on the run, maybe, like, as an extra force having to take down Ziggy, like, later on. But anyway, I'm going to skim through the kind of, like, other parts of the chapter, because like I said, there was some good stuff, but for the most part, like, this was a Ziggy chapter. This was very much a Ziggy information chapter and a Ziggy hype chapter. But, like, we have Xiao Mei, and she's just kind of pretty much going over everything. She's just giving us, like a recap over some of the recent events. I like seeing Xiao Mei. I think she's a really neat character for Mishima to do some meta stuff, and as well as have a character that can recap stuff, but do it in a way that it doesn't just feel like he's wasting pages, like he just wants to waste pages. Because usually you'll have, like, a page or so of, like, maybe someone wants to go over something. But I think with Xiao Mei, the fact that he's able to do it without it just being, like, the way that you have, like, apparently an inverse commentator, I think that is the best way to describe it. I think he's done it in a really good way here. But we see some of the other characters doing their training, some wording on it, like, Wise is, like, shooting some targets. Xenolith comments that he's pretty much just pulling the trigger, like he's not controlling the recoil, he's pulling too hard. He's essentially just shooting it, like he's just pretty much getting the shot. Like he's not doing anything with technique or handling of the gun, he's just using it. So again, that's similar to his ether gear, that he doesn't really know entirely what he's doing. He says he does it by feel. So it's just kind of like a weird, almost muscle kind of reflex while he's in the power rather than knowing. So obviously if he knows and he's able to get like a technique down, he's going to be way better. He'll probably be like a way quicker, more accurate shot. He'll probably be able to just handle machines at a much more fast, precise, and complex level. There's some stuff, obviously, with Homura, just on her general footing. Rebecca still hasn't gotten past the being able to use ether gear even while bound and restricted. So, like, we know that she's obviously the least experienced with her, so she's taking a little bit. I'm hoping she'll have that at least under wraps by the time we get out of here. I do hope that she has something upgraded to her abilities, just because right now she has the least to use. Like, she obviously has a really good ether gear, but, like, for the most part, she's really fast and she's got her guns. Like, if she just, like, say it, like, she comes out of this, like, with being able to use her ether gear even when bound, or maybe, like, Mishima will keep that, but she gets an upgrade in something else. If Happy Butt has some other guns, or she's able to learn, like, a technique with her abilities, I'm kind of hoping she gains, like, a pseudo time stop ability, but more of, like, how Ultier could do it. Like, Ultier couldn't stop time, like, she couldn't, like, full stop time, and she couldn't use her time abilities on other people, but she could use it on their abilities and attacks. Like, I'm just imagining maybe Rebecca, like, if you threw an attack at her, like, say you just shot, like, a fireball, and she could just lock it in place and then just kind of keep it there. Maybe not the same degree where Ultier could just, like, forward or reverse it time to pretty much dissipate it, but maybe if she could just lock it, get out of the way, or if she could send it back, like reverse send it back or something. That actually would be like a really, if she could like Like, I imagine, like, just, like, the way that Mishima could balance it, if she could, like, stop an attack and send it back, but the user gets the power back, like, say you get the amount of energy you dispensed back for using it, or maybe, like, a slightly reduced version, that would still be, like, a really good way to balance it, but still make it a really useful ability for her. Because, obviously, like, she's, like, a sharpshooter, and she's, like, a marksman. If she could do that and just generally set up attacks like way easier with it, that'd be huge for her. But I am really hoping that HappyBot has like a couple more gun forms. Like even if one, like if she gets like just like a heavy damage gun, like a cannon or a shotgun, or maybe just like a like if Mishima wants to stick with the more like handgun style things, like maybe it goes from less of like a little blaster, but maybe she gets like a revolver thing, or just like generally like a very like high firepower handgun. Like I don't know. I'm hoping she gets something because I like Rebecca. I like her in the story. I've mentioned I've talked to Quan Credible about her. She actually has the least character right now out of everybody in the main cast, but I think she just hasn't gotten like the most yet because obviously she's like she hasn't gotten the most in the story because like Mishima is clearly doing a lot with her and like hyping up her Ithaca and stuff. So she just has a lot in waiting, but that doesn't change the fact that she has the least amount of general kind of character development and then like material to use. But again, that's just because she hasn't had as much spotlight as some of the other characters, which is really surprising because usually Mishima saves the main characters the longest. But obviously Rebecca is like one of the dual main characters because he always has like a main female lead and a main male lead. But usually the male leads he saves a lot further. But Xenolith is just doing some work on them, training them and whatnot, going through that. And then we just have like Zhao Mei being like, all right, let's skip this trading stuff and let's just kind of go on. I'm very curious to what Mishima's doing with the little girl Aruna and Xenolith. Are we gonna like see like the characters maybe go through some time shenanigans, and the next time we see her, she's like a lot older, and maybe she's like keeping Xenolith's body like intact? I don't know, because I feel like there has to be something involved with her. There has to be something in her storyline that is at least memorable, because otherwise why does Mishima set this character up if like she doesn't have something? Like I don't expect her to be like a major plot relevant character, but I'm hoping she at least has some more important role in the story. Like if she becomes Xenolith's maybe like maintenance girl, I'd be fine with that. Like she's like his keeper, she's like keeping his body like in check. Maybe she's going to help bring Forestera back into fruition after that, like becomes like a really good mechanic and is able to fix a lot of stuff. I think that'd be really cool. But anyway, other than that, though, like I said, very heavy Ziggy chapter, because even the parts that weren't about Ziggy, or weren't focused on Ziggy, we were getting breadcrumbs from, like, the Shining Stars about Ziggy, and, like, from Xenolith and stuff. Like, there's even, like, the line where Xenolith is saying how gravity powers come from the weight of your heart, but you have to balance it with like tranquility on top of that. So you can't just have it tip too far in one section, otherwise your heart will fall into the darkness. And I think that was really cool. It's like the darkness leads to Ziggy, and it's essentially like just again it's like that whole Darth Vader thing. He's like the dark side of the Force, and he's just this evil dude who's gone down this pathway. And I guess even if you want to say like it's not the same thing, but like Xenolith does have a little bit of a Yoda vibe. But I'm pretty happy with this. And I've mentioned that before. It's not, like, Eden Zero doesn't have really, like, a Star Wars vibe outside of, like, the sci-fi. But I do like that there's a little bit of that feeling from, like, the relationship between, like, Ziggy and Shiki. And a little bit Xenolith, too. So I'm hyped about that. I'm very hyped to see, like, where this goes. And I want to see the confrontation, because it's been a week. So Shura should be pulling up on Ziggy soon. I'd be really happy, though, if, like, we get to Shura and he's like, oh, I'm not challenging him head on. Like, he tries to be smart about it. He wants to, like, gauge his power first or, like, play it more intelligently. But we'll see. He doesn't seem like that kind of character, but I could be surprised. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below. Thumbs up the video, but from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Further than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.